Good afternoon, assalamu alaikum everyone, and welcome to another video. This time we are at Brands Hatch, and not only do I have a helmet camera, I've also got a cockpit cam as well. So we're kind of getting absolutely everything in this one video. I personally think that's pretty cool, but I thought I had a test day at Brands Hatch in the Ford KA, so I thought I'd show what that footage was like, show what some hot laps look like for anyone who's going to Brands Hatch either for a test day or for a race, just to kind of see. So turn one, absolutely send it. You don't need to use all of the curb on the apex, but you do come out nice and wide. We're not allowed to go on the green stuff, and then I brake nice and late. I drop it down from fourth to second, get up onto the curb, and then just open up the steering coming out of the corner, car back over to the right, and then you want to use this kind of green artificial grass just to try to get the car rotated. I could have used more curb on the apex, but that's one corner that I was kind of messing up, and then when I look back at the footage I realised, hey, there's some time. Completely flat through 30s, and then get the car all the way over to the left. It's just a little dab on the brakes. In the KA, obviously every car will be different, and then you just want to absolutely nail the apex, carry the speed, and then come over the start finish line as we get overtaken by another car on the track. There's a Caterham. They're much faster than us, but yeah, that's essentially what you want to do. You can see how much curb we're taking going in, not too much. If you take more than what I did, you'll end up going on two wheels, and that's slow. But I was kind of putting in consistent times. In the Ford KA, you're doing about 103.9s. Probably if I'm on fresher tyres, I can go a little bit quicker. Maybe take the passenger seat out as well, and take that left-hander a little bit better. Maybe we can get into like the 103.3s or 103.5s. I'll find out on Sunday when I've got my race. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you can see when all of those videos are coming out. But yeah, the main purpose of this is just to give you an idea of what Brands Hatch looks like from an onboard perspective, because there aren't a lot of those floating around, and definitely not many with commentary kind of explaining what to do. So again, into turn one, nice and wide, dab on the brakes really late, and you're barely using the brakes. You just full send it in. You can see how much speed we're carrying. I think we're going at about 80 miles an hour through turn one. Into this hairpin, again, I like to brake late and then point the car towards the apex. So not a long sweeping line, just be really aggressive. Get that car into the apex as early as possible. I was understeering so much, and you can see I have a bit of a snap of oversteer as I get onto the curb. It was a tiny bit damp. Again, we're driving completely, as if it's completely dry, but I did feel every now and then you might just get onto a slightly wetter bit of curb or something, and the rear end could go a bit weird. But for all purposes, it was dry. And that's how I was treating the circuit. So coming on then to another lap, I have a little look on my wing mirrors and my rear view mirror just to see if anyone's going to overtake me. Again, it's a track day, so you do have to be a little bit aware. Full send into turn one, and it's only right towards the end that you open up the steering, and you do really notice the elevation change coming out of Paddock Hill Bend. It is very, very cool. I've only been out at Donington as well as, and Snetterton as well, but the descent coming out of Paddock Hill is really cool, as we get loads of curb that time, and that's kind of what we should be doing every lap. So that's the right kind of amount of curb. Those sausages at the apex aren't too bad, particularly in a front wheel drive car, because when you're going through the left-hander, your inside front tire lifts off the ground, so even though you're hitting those sausages, the tire isn't compressed down, so it doesn't really unsettle the car too much. And yeah, that's what I'm aiming to do, at least for my race in a few days time, or probably once I've released this video onto YouTube. It would have been a few days ago. Again, just send it into this corner. You can turn in quite early. I think that was a little bit too early. You want to turn in a little bit later ideally, but hey, it is what it is. Again, this is my first time at Brands Hatch. I'm just getting to feel with things, and I'd had a few sessions earlier on, but I was quite happy with the pace that I had. Again, that time I tried to get the rear rotated a little bit too much. I lost the rear. I caught it, but I couldn't keep on the track, so I ended up going off, and I then got it turned around on the grass and then back onto circuit. And as a result of that, I figured this is probably a very good time for me to come back into the pit lane, kind of just reflect on everything that I've done. I knew that I pretty much had the pace. I just had to find a little bit more time, but sometimes it's better just to get out of the car, have a proper think about it, talk to a few people as well, and then go back out on to circuit. So that's what I did. I went into the pit lane, but when I then came back out of the pits about half an hour later, it had started to rain. And with rain, I thought, hey, this is another excellent idea for a video. Why don't I now show what it's like driving in the wet at Brands Hatch? Now, I will be honest, it wasn't chucking it down, but it was wet, and we were lapping about 9 seconds a lap slower. So into turn 1, I'm not turning in from the outside because that's where the rubber is, and I'm just trying to miss the apex by a tiny amount. Now, I am no wet weather expert at Brands Hatch or in the Ford KA, so what I'm saying could be completely wrong, but this is what I was doing. I'm not turning in from the racing line. Again, I was getting up to the apex through that right-hander, through Druid's Hairpin, but I wasn't using the curb because that was slippery. Going into here, don't use that white line, and then just on the power, easing the power on. It's so different to karting because in karts, we're racing in slicks, so it's weird. Through this left-hander, the amount of understeer that there was ridiculous, and I started carrying a bit more speed. For now, I was just lifting, and I was just taking it easy, trying to take a nice wide line through clearways, and there's just so much understeer, and I guess that is because it is a front-wheel drive car, and it's wet as well, but I was kind of consistently doing very similar laps in these conditions, and well, no one was really able to catch or overtake me, mainly because there weren't that many people out on circuit. They'd all started going home, and I was kind of quicker than most people in these conditions. So again, taking that kind of slightly wider line, almost a middle line. You don't need to be braking on the inside of the circuit, just not on the racing line. I could have pushed the brakes so much more going into Druid's Hairpin, so definitely a bit of time there. And I wasn't trying to push too hard, mainly because the forecast for my race was dry, so I just thought, let's just go out, get a feel of the car in the wet weather conditions, but I don't need to do anything crazy. I don't really need to push the car, even though I really wanted to, because if I have a spin, hit the barriers, the car's now damaged and then needs to be fixed by Sunday. So just keep it on the circuit, because none of the data that I'm going to get from this session is going to help me particularly for the race. So this is just getting a feel of the car. If I ever have a wet car race at some point, I've got a little bit of extra knowledge. But yeah, so I was being a little bit cautious on the brakes in places, but as this session went on, I started pushing a little bit more, and I think you'll see that here going into Paddock Hill, because I braked so much later than I was during my earlier laps. And let's see when I brake. I probably brake there just before the white line gets to the middle of the circuit, and I think I even pushed a little bit later than that at some points. But again, I was trying to be consistent, and I was consistently doing very similar lap times. You can see that my car isn't really on edge, so there's a lot more time in these conditions, probably easily a second, I'd think. And then if you've got someone very, very fast, an insanely talented driver, maybe there's another half a second or a second, because this is very tame wet weather driving. It's very smooth. I'm never going to make a big mistake into this corner. You can see the understeer that I was getting, and almost understeering off the circuit, and then braking on the inside again, nice and wide going into clearways. I don't want to be on the inside line because that's where the rubber is. Again, though, it's a track day, so maybe there's not that much rubber, so maybe I could have actually used the racing line and it would have been fine. But again, this is just meant to be here as a little guide as to what you can and kind of what you shouldn't do at Brands Hatch, and I hope it has been useful. But that is pretty much us at the end of the video. I come into the pits at the end of this lap, so yeah, I hope it's been useful. I do have a race at Brands Hatch coming up soon, so please drop a like and subscribe, and then yeah, watch my race at Brands Hatch. It's going to be really cool, it's going to be epic, and yeah, see you all in the next one. Ciao.